Hello, what's up, what's up, what's up? How are you? Happy Monday to you. I am sending you out lots of love. I am back in the United States. Today has been kind of a crazy busy day with client meetings, but I am now here to connect with you because it's what I love to do on a Monday. Sorry that I'm doing this at such a strange time. I don't know if you guys even know that this is a strange time for me to be doing my Facebook Live, but here I am. This is the beginning of spring for so many of us, and we are loving it and grateful for it. Faux show, at least I am. It's been weird because I just got back to Virginia, and I was expecting spring, and it was actually snowing, kind of sleeting on my way in. So it was kind of like, okay, I guess someone didn't get the memo that it's, supposed to be spring. But that's all good. How are you doing? How are you doing after the Easter holiday? Did you get renewed in your inspiration and motivation? How is spring looking for you? I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what's up in your world. I want to tell you that many of my peeps, the people very, very close and near and dear to me, we've all been talking about the transformation that's going on for many of us who are stepping out and stepping up in the world on this spiritual path of ours. And I wonder if you've been feeling the same. Now, you could say it's Mercury retrograde. You could say it's just part of life. So I'm curious to hear from you. How are you feeling today? Are you feeling like there's anything in your life that seems a little strange? Or is it just my peeps? Is it just the people that I roll with? Because one of the things that I think is really interesting is when you start to look at trends amongst your friends and your community. You know, you've probably heard that Jim Rohn quote that says, you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So definitely our close, intimate relationships, our work partnerships, our friends, the people that we spend the most time with influence us. And it's kind of cool that even the world of science, biology, and neuroscience talks about how we get in sync with each other. Vaughn. Wow. You said that you had an uncle that passed away a few days ago. Oh, my heavens. That is a little, whew. I don't know if your uncle was not doing well and if that was a surprise, but I'm sending you much love and peace to your family to get through that. I know that losing someone is one of those things that if you weren't planning for it, we can knock you on your butt. But I'm glad to see, Yvonne, that you say that spring is going to be awesome. I'm definitely looking forward to it, faux show. And hey, what's up, Belay? You say Mercury retrograde needs to leave, quick, fast, and in a hurry. Well, I'm with you. I do believe that the turning and the spinning of the planets affects us all. It's not just, our zodiac signs, but everybody knows, right, about how the tides are affected by the pull of the moon. We know that certain women on their cycle will feel different at different times of the moon. And when I was talking about these people that we hang around with and how we get in sync with each other, there were all these great studies way back when of how women at college who were in dorm rooms together or lived together, their monthly cycle would actually get synchronized. And so we really pick up on not just the moods of other people, but actual energy that can influence ourselves. And of course, you've probably heard me talk about all of the effects on our neurochemistry and even our brain wiring. The most obvious stuff that people are talking about is these mirror neurons. It's how we can pick up on somebody else's mood or energy. And all these wonderful studies like from the Global Consciousness Project, and how people can actually tap into the energy of people who are on the other side of the planet. So it's pretty amazing that we can pick up all of this energy and we can be affected by it. And I think one of the things that always gets us, it often can knock us on our bums, is when we're not expecting it or we're not planning for, these kind of turbulent times. And there is the lovely Yvette Taylor. Yes, you are looking forward to Mercury moving forward and direct again. Well, fortunately, for those of you that do follow this stuff, Mercury will be going direct, as we say, this weekend. So hopefully all of the challenges that some of us have had with communication, usually people talk about Mercury affecting communication and electronics. I have a former client in Monte Carlo who literally was buying a car, and she went back to the dealership and she said, listen, in terms of delivery, I do not want a car that's being manufactured or delivering in this period of time. She's like, I'm not having no drama. Yes, it's true. For us Americans, it's tax day. It's April 15th when Mercury goes back direct. And so it's going to be good, I think, for all of us. So I wanted to take this little break from my client meetings today and before I pick up my daughter from school, because as I was saying, many of the people that I am in connection with are really super committed and on this path of evolution. We're on this mutual path of growth and spirituality. And we have each made a commitment to stepping up our game. And one of the interesting things that has come up is, again, when you make a commitment to live a better life, and this could be anything. This could be you making a commitment just to eat better, right? As soon as you make that commitment that I'm not going to eat as many fatty foods or sugary foods, all of a sudden you're seeing it everywhere and you're feeling that temptation, or somebody invites you out for a big rib feast or whatever. And as soon as we make a commitment to spending less money so that we can save more for something, all of a sudden there are these temptations. Or maybe you've made a commitment to do something later in the year and all of a sudden you have an unexpected financial challenge and you're like, oh no, if I have to spend over here, then I can't spend over there. And when we make a commitment on our spiritual path, that we say we want to take the high road, like we were talking about last week about forgiveness. And should we forgive other people who've done us wrong, even if they've done us wrong multiple times? Or, maybe we should just give in. And if someone's going to be mean to us, we're going to be mean back. Well, one of the things that was brought up from last week's live was from Caroline. And I don't remember if she's in Sweden. I think she's in Sweden. And one of the things Caroline was saying was that she learned, especially using the Course in Miracles, that if you have no expectations, then there is no need for forgiveness because nobody can hurt you or disappoint you. So I want to just dive into this a little bit more because one of the meetings that I had recently was dealing with this very same issue. And it was, let's say we make an agreement business-wise and something goes awry. You decide you want to go in a different direction, or the market doesn't quite work out the way that we envisioned. It can cause a sense of disappointment. Now, I'm not even talking about if someone deliberately does you wrong. I'm saying that best laid plans just didn't follow through for you. And what happens when you are dealing with that disappointment? Now, as somebody said a long time ago, money makes it funny. Anytime it's involving money, it kind of raises the stakes for a lot of people because they feel like, you did me wrong and now I'm out of the pocket or whatever. And so I want to explore this with you because As I was reflecting over the weekend, and I tuned into the lovely Sister Dr. Jenna at the Meditation Museum, who led a teaching yesterday around the karma of relationships, it really came home for me. Because as we were talking about forgiveness, and we were talking about, if somebody else is at a certain level in their development and they do something that hurts you or disappoints you, if you have agreed to or stated your declaration to God or Source or the universe that you want to live in a certain level of your own values and sense of integrity, then what happens when you really get hurt? Because we humans, we are still humans, we haven't all ascended into our, floating Buddha form, right? So if you're still on the planet, then you can get hurt. But you don't have to suffer. And this was brought home to me when I realized that even in a positive business transaction, when you're expecting things to go well and everyone's in agreement, when things go wrong, it can hurt. And that can lead to disillusionment. Now, if you're dealing with a health crisis or a mental health challenge, and you're feeling like people are out to get you, or someone has attacked you, or someone's put you down, or something didn't go through, then for many people, what we've seen is that disappointment actually leads to despair. And so I'm curious to know if anyone else has dealt with this, or is it only in my little circle? Because there are 3 or 4 key messages that I want to explore with you all today. And I call it the I am in action. And that's, if you spell it out, it's I-A-M-I-A. So I am in action. And what this involves is, first and foremost, if we're feeling that sting of disappointment and really feeling hurt by someone, or just life, because life can be a little cruel sometimes. If you feel like you're just getting knocked on your butt and you weren't expecting it, that can feel almost like, wait a minute, what's going on? I thought I was doing everything that I said I was going to do for the world, and how come I'm experiencing this? Like, that shouldn't be happening. Is anybody else out there, or am I the only one that's ever felt like? Anyone? Are y'all here? Y'all have gone silent. Is this because this is like such a deep conversation, or what? Or is it because it's a weird time for my Facebook Live? I don't know. But anyway, I'd like to hear from you. So here's the thing. If something is happening in our external world, then we might call that the fruit of our previous actions. So if you look at karma, this sense of, you reap what you sow, we can look at whatever is happening in our present experience is the fruit of our actions in the past. So if we've been sowing seeds in the past of discontent, if we get more discontent in our life, that is a sense of, cause and effect. Thank you. So I hear you. Thank you so much for at least chiming in that you're here and that you're following along. Thank you. Glad to know that I have not been alone here. And so Grant says, what's up, G. Nick? You've been wronged. However, the universe is blessing you. Well, I'm glad you can see the blessings through it, my friend, because that's what I want us to get to today. And Jacqueline, thank you. It's just that everybody's thinking. Fabulous. I'm glad to know that you're at least here and you're thinking. And Trevor says, every experience we get is an opportunity for growth. I am with you. So let's grow together. And what's up? Maria, glad to have you here. All right. So then if we are on this path and we recognize that our actions in the past will bear fruit, we will see the results of our actions. And it's been interesting because yesterday, as Sister Jenna was talking about this very topic, she was talking about even our thoughts. So whether you say them out loud or not, entertaining certain thoughts are going to create a karmic result. So if we really think this through, then we recognize that on the spiritual path, I'm being invited to take responsibility for any of the karmic fruit that's in my world. And to use the terminology as Sister Jenna was using it, she talks about settling, like settling karma. It's almost like settling a debt, right? So when I was working with this client, and we have a very different relationship. It's not just about the business of her projects that are going forward, but we're working on what does it mean to really step up as a spiritual leader and a spiritual teacher, right? And so we got to go really deep on this one topic, and I want to share with you a little bit of notes that came up. And the first one is this idea of intention. So I mentioned the I am in action. Well, the I stands for intention. And there's one thing that you'll know, that we can look at karma from the standpoint of, yes, I have an action and there will be a result. But one piece that I don't think a lot of people talk about when it comes to karma is the intention. So for example, if I had the pure intention to help someone and I went out doing something for them and it didn't go well, well, it's not that I'm going to have something bad come back on me because my action caused something bad. If my intention was pure, then it's not going to leave this karmic imprint on me. Does that make sense to people out there? Hey, Sandy, you say, as a follower of Sri Krishna, karma is a big one for you. Karma from previous lives? Not too thrilled about that. Well, whether we like it or not, it certainly depends on your belief system, right? So we can talk about past lives, but we can even just keep it super, super real right here in the present. Although, thanks, Dora, I'm glad you agree. I do feel like there are some people that are in my world that I'm just like, I feel like this instant connection. I feel like we are a soul tribe, and I feel like, whoa, like we must have been here before. But, you know, the scientist in me says, well, I can't necessarily prove reincarnation to you. But even if we just work on what you've actually felt. Hey, Dr. Valencia, good to have you here. Want to hear you chime in on this subject matter as well. Like, even if we know that at least our actions in the present are also, they're going to bear fruit one way or another, then we can just say, okay, let's start with intention. So this is one of the things I feel like we don't always say out loud. I mean, unless you're in business and you're like working on your mission statement and you're like, okay, what is our intention? But beyond money in business, the people that I work with, they have a higher kind of goal in mind. They're really looking at their work as part of their life purpose, their dharma. And part of that means that we are going to be really super conscious and aware of what is my intention. And so I want you to really look at what are the intentions that you've had. So if there is a relationship that you can bring to mind where you are feeling hurt or disappointed, or a business thing, or just life, like you're kind of like, hey, why did I end up with this, disease challenge or whatever, then just bring that up and let's start to look through that. And so Dora says it's the intention behind the action or the decision that's important. It's really your intention behind the action. And so again, I really want you to think of, is it possible for you to have an intention to do something that is free from expectation? So let's use the example of giving a gift, okay? So if I decide that I'm in the store or I'm, traveling in my world travels and I see something that I think is just perfect for you, like I feel like you are going to love this. And there's something that just gets born inside of me that bubbles up that says, oh, I'm going to just buy this. I just think she'll love it. And if I give that to you with the expectation that you're going to gush and scream and grab me and hug me and feel forever indebted, then that's not the purest of intentions. But if I feel like, oh, I just think that this will bless her, and I'm just giving it with that pure intention, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being free from the expectation of reward or of recognition, or of thanks or praise, like pure intentions. Because I think as we get into relationships, it's easy for us to think, well, I'm going to do this for that person, so I'm expecting that they're going to do that. Or I'll do this now as an investment, knowing that in, some period of time, I'm going to come calling on them for something. So if we can get to a point where we are free from any expectation, that I believe is where we need to go. Because then if that person hurts you or disappoints you, will you feel hurt? Okay, maybe your feelings might get a little hurt because you're thinking, dang, I just spent that money. I carried it on the plane, all careful. But in truth, at a deep, deep, deep level, you should still feel good, because the karmic action of giving out of the joy, out of the pleasure, means that your reward will come. Again, you're not doing it for the reward, but karma is a law. It's one of the universal laws that means that it will get repaid at some point. And Valencia says, past lives can leave imprints for sure. They can't prove the gravity either as to its depth and detail. So true, Valencia. So absolutely. So we know that even the law of karma exists, that you will get what you sow. And if we can do that with a pure heart and pure intention, that is step one. So that's the I. Now, the next piece is something called attention. Now, attention is a little different from intention. So intention is all about, why did I do it? What was I intending? Whereas attention is, where do we put our focus? Because where you put your focus or your attention, you're going to get what you expect. And for example, when you go out to buy a new car, for example, and you've been searching online, maybe you went to the dealership, you've been looking at that model of car, suddenly, many people will always say, it seems like I'm seeing that car everywhere now. It's a sign. Well, it's just because your attention has been on that make and model of car that you're now seeing it everywhere. And so if we look at attention from the standpoint from, I will get what I see or what I expect to see, where my attention goes. Now, if I give my attention only to my true, pure wishes, now this is the trick. Sister Jenna actually mentioned this as well yesterday. She was talking about the fact that sometimes somebody can bring up something negative, and you didn't even see that negative thing in that person. But now all of a sudden, since someone mentioned it, oh, now you're spotting it. If I give my attention to something, then I will start to see it. So if we can look very carefully at where we fix our attention, and the attention is not just what we see visually, it's what we focus on mentally. If I'm focusing on, not to get too much into the law of attraction kind of stuff, but if I'm focusing on scarcity, on limitation, on lack, on loss in my mind through fear, if I'm meditating on that over and over again, then that is what I will start to see. And so we have to keep our attention on the things that we wish to experience in the world. So again, getting back to kind of the words of Gandhi, where he says, be the change that you wish to see in the world. If there's something that you are looking to manifest or you're looking to repair, going back to the relationship example, you don't want to point out every flaw in your partner, even mentally thinking, oh, look at the way he's chewing, making all that noise, making a mess, whatever. Because the more that you focus your attention there, the more that you're going to see that, and the more that it's going to irritate you. And I like to turn it inward and say, if there's something that I desire to manifest out in the world, then I need to know that it's already possible and that it's already within me. And now if I can really tune my attention to the abundance of that thing, then it will be much more easy to manifest it. And so let me give you an example. Again, this person was talking about how hurt she was that this person who was supposed to be spiritual had said something about her that really could be construed as very negative and hurtful. And as we were talking about it, I said, okay, so what is it you want? Because she was having a challenge just letting it go and forgiving. And it was like, okay, so what is it you really want? Well, I want her to apologize. Well, I want the people that she was telling it to know that it's not true. Like, so she went down this list. She's like, well, I want recognition for all the times I've been there, for all the times I wasn't, whatever mean thing that this person was saying. And I said, okay, I got it. Now, you cannot change another person. And trying to change another person's point of view, that's the hardest. I mean, you can change a person's behavior, right? Dangle a little carrot or whip them with a stick. Most people will change, right? At least to some extent. But a person's internal point of view, you can't readily influence that. And I said, so if you continue to hold on to this grudge, if you continue to sit there in your mind thinking through all the times that you were the opposite of what she's saying, and like going through that energetic drain, I said, what is it benefiting you? And what is it costing you? Because you'll probably not change her in the next days or weeks, right? It's like, is it worth mounting a case in your head as if you're going to go to court and defend your position? Because defending your position means you're attached to your position. And you know how you know what I'm going to say. Anything that you are so attached to, your way or the highway, your version of right versus wrong, if you are attached to that, that will lead to suffering. Because there's going to be someone or something in this outside world that doesn't agree with it. Because there's no 100% agreement on virtually anything. Very few things. So as we were talking about it, I said, okay, you want this person to give you recognition of all the times that you were all these positive things. And I said, okay, let's bring that attention back within. Because I'm going to use another silly example. If I were just teaching a little kid, what is 2 + 2? Well, clearly it equals 4, right? I could sit there and wring my hands and get frustrated because they're not getting it. Or I could say, okay, well, at this level of development, she doesn't quite get it yet. She will eventually. It's not worth it for me to go over that drama. Now, obviously, that's a very silly example. But why should I waste my energy and start thinking bad about her and start trying to... It's not worth it, right? So if we can say, let me just let the outside world be as it's going to be and go within and say, okay, let me see everywhere in my own experience where I can recognize how I was all those positive qualities. Instead of waiting for that person to recognize it, let me recognize it for myself so that I can feel the fullness and the abundance of my truth. Because their opinion cannot change my truth. Opinions can change. But if it's my truth, and I'm inviting you to explore this with me, if this is your truth, and if it feels right for you, then all you need to do is sit with that and be with that. Putting that extra energy out there to defend your case, to try to sway someone, is going to likely deplete you. And then you're putting your attention again back into a direction that's only going to continue to bring up all of that strife. Does that make sense? Does it? Okay, so Hugh says, right action for right action's sake. Giving above person, yet includes the person. So your intention is to take right action. Beautiful. I love that. And Valencia says, you're working with this very thing. You've realized just within the past several months that you had been doing and giving so much to some family members unconsciously to try to feel appreciated and supported, belonging, an old lifelong story. So you had loads of attachment, which is why you kept getting disappointed. Yep. And how much of your family members did you change with that? Right? Thank you, Wenda. I'm glad that this makes sense of the example of attention. And Trevor, yes, the 100% cost and 0 benefit is when you're attached. That's right. And so we can put out all of this energy towards trying to sway people. And what is it costing us? And why? So, as Valencia says, where there's envy and strife, there is confusion and every evil work. Right. And so if we give our attention to that envy, strife, that drama, then we are entering into a karmic relationship with that person and with that energy. And so it sounds, to some people, it sounds harsh because in the case of my client, she was saying, but I've invested so much. And then for those of us with family drama, we might say, but wait, this is my flesh and blood. Or we might even look back, but oh, I remember the time when my mama did this for me and that for me. I don't want to abandon her. But I say, what are you really committed to in this life? Again, it comes back to that intention. What is your intention for your life? And if there is another person who is dragging you down and draining your energy, then you're not going to be moving forward towards what you might believe is your spiritual purpose, including our family members. Now, I'm not talking about abandoning people who are going through a hard time, but if you need to limit, put up some boundaries to how much time you spend with them, depending on how it affects you. I mean, I can't make that up for you. Only you can tell how much, what's the dosage that you can tolerate of certain family members before you just like, oh my gosh, this is going to drain me. And so Trevor says, our truth can be peaceful when we don't impose it on others. The good question to ask is, what value are we bringing to the situation? I love that. I love that, Trevor, because value can be looked at on a number of levels, right? Because we can, like Valencia was saying, we can do for someone, but is it really creating value? Like in the other person's mind, again, I cannot tell you, what something is worth to you, right? Like we might look up the Kelly Blue Book value on a car to agree at how much should we sell this car for. But if you're using that car to deliver meals to your sick relative, the value of that car might be really high versus someone who's just using it as a leisure thing, right? And so if you are bringing value to a situation, I like that. I like that question because I would even flip it around, Trevor, and say, what value is this bringing to me? And I believe that value can happen on multiple levels. I don't have to physically be present with someone to be of value in their life. I can send them my heartfelt wishes that they be well, that they be free of suffering, that they receive healing and benefit in their life. And that can make an impact. I mean, I've gotten so many emails and phone calls from people saying, oh my gosh, you were in my dreams last night, or I just felt your presence. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't have to tell them, yeah, I've been praying for you, or, sending positive vibes your way. So those are the first two. So we look at our intention. Can we have that pure intention to be engaged in a relationship or in an activity without expectation? And then our attention. Where do we place our attention? Because where I place my attention, I'm going to see what I expect to see. And if I'm not seeing that in the outside world, that praise, that recognition, that validation, or whatever it is that we're searching for, then I say go within so that you can feel the experience. And when this woman did this, she told me, she was like, I came away feeling so empowered. She said, I realized that their validation of me couldn't even measure up to the level of all the things she was able to tick off in her own mind. So in her case, she was like, okay, I looked at how many times, she said how many times she was at this meeting, how many times she presented, she did all of like the paperwork and the PowerPoints and all the stuff she did for the business. And then she talked about all of the extra love and attention and support she did, from phone calls to emails to Skype sessions. And she looked at all of that, and she looked at what value that had. And she looked at herself and she thought, wow, I have really been so giving and so loving. And she was doing it without expectation. Again, she looked back at her intention. She was like, yes, I did it because we were in this relationship where it was somewhat expected. She said, but I did it from this intention that I just wanted this other person well. And so even though it hurt that this other person was then talking bad about her, she realized that within her was a fount, a wellspring of abundant recognition and praise and validation. And she felt so full that she was like, oh, wow, now I can truly just say, I get it. You're going through something. And, who knows how long that's going to take before that person can get past it. But I think it's good for us to look at that. So that's the I and the A. The M of the I am is our motivation. Now this is a tricky one because people sometimes confuse it with the intention. But the motivation is more about the energy behind, or the fuel that drives our actions. And again, I want you to just sort of check in with your motivation in terms of what you're doing in life or business or love or family. What is your motivation? If your motivation is because you really do feel this sense of compassion, you feel this desire to really help and be of service to reduce suffering, then that's a beautiful motivation, right? If your motivation is to get and to take, I would say watch out, because there are going to be times when you don't get or take what it is that you were thinking that you were going to get. And that can lead to that same sense of disappointment, the disappointment that comes with a heavier weight or burden that can drag you down. And so I want you to be aware of that, okay? See what you guys are saying over here in the comments. Hello, Gita, one of our lovely authors in Time to Rise. Good to see you here. And yes, different value systems. So we all have different value systems. And if we look at our motivation, I just want you to just check in. Am I motivated to do something out of love or compassion or some other pure intention? Because the more you're able to dial into those more spiritual or wholesome, virtuous motivations, the less likely you will hold on to the disappointment. Again, we're human. It may still feel that sting. You may get that sense of, being slightly hurt, but being able to move on from it is the key. And then the last is the IA. So the I am in action. The in action stands for inspired action. And this one is critical. My friend and my real self-love tribe leader, Helena Phillipson, always jokes that I talk about in spiritus. And I think the first time I heard this and traced back the Latin, I'm into etymology, like understanding the roots of words and where they come from. And inspiration comes from this Latin in spiritus, which means we have the spirit within us. And that means like a godly, holy spirit or divine source. It's generally a positive spirit. I don't mean like the evil spirits. But inspiration, and hey, what's up, Taz Thornton? She leads the Inspiration Tribe. So inspiration means we literally feel that flow from a holy, divine, pure source. So I'm not talking about evil spirits. I'm talking about that spirit that you feel where you really believe, wow, this is coming from a place bigger than my mind or my ego. It's coming from my heart, my soul, my spirit, my God, whatever. And so inspired action means we're not going to take action just out of busyness. We're not going to take action out of duty or obligation. Instead, I want that spirit that comes forth. And again, I know that some of us are still in businesses where you just go to work to collect that paycheck because you still have to, pay the bills and live in that paradigm. And I get that. So yes, you are going to have things on your to-do list that may not come with that in spiritus, divine inspiration. But I want you to just, where you can, really check in to say, and maybe it is only in certain areas of your life or certain relationships in your life. But if you wanted to sort of buffer or insulate yourself against that sense of disappointment that leads to disillusionment or despair, then it comes time for us to really say, I want to take inspired action. And that means the acts that will bring more love, more joy, more peace, more hope to the world, rather than just the getting kind of energy. So does that make sense to you all? Yes, I think it does. Trevor says, your motivation comes from kindness and you love it. Awesome. And Valencia says, the disappointment will come at times, and it's a powerful reminder to check in on what's your motivation in the first place. It's a reflection opportunity for growth. I love it. Yes, let us reflect. And Leslie Van Oostenbrugge, the awakening dentist, also in Time to Rise. She says, be, then act. Yes, I love it. Be, then act. And Taz says, putting the Om in momentum. I love it. So if we did that, if before we let the momentum rush us into some crazy place, if we decided to put that Om, that pause, and ask yourself, who am I being before I take this action? Who am I being? If I am checking in with my intentions, with where my attention is going, with my motivation, am I going to take this inspired action, bringing the best of me, the highest of me? Then we can really say, if it is something challenging, which we will all go through, then we can pause. And if we ourselves are feeling weak or feeling hurt, then you can draw on the source, whatever that is for you, God, the Holy Spirit, angels, maybe a spirit that's passed on. And Taz, I'm hoping that you're going to help us in the masterclass that you lead for the Real Self-Love movement about how do we tap into those guides? Because I have found it even in my own life that sometimes I get to a point where I'm like, dang, I've gone through my little book. I've called all the people in my Rolodex, and they don't necessarily have the answers, or I'm caught in the midst of something where I've got to take action. And if I'm not feeling that inspiration where I feel the need to react rather than respond from that centered place, then I have learned that there are times when I've got to say, okay, God, angels, somebody, anybody who's dedicated to the light and of goodness in this world, step in, calling on that source to connect and lead us, because we need that. I believe, especially as we go higher and higher. So Valencia says, you love in spiritus, which you live, breathe, move, and have your being. Amen. And that's what I'm talking about. That's the path that we are on. Dr. Valencia is my soul sister, I know. And that's what I'm hoping that the rest of this tribe is working towards as well, that we're all working towards this experience that even when life feels really unfair and really painful, or the people and experiences that let us down and hurt us, that we can say that, you know what? I am more than this. I am more than flesh and blood. I am more than whatever is going on in my balance sheet in my business or my bank account. Nellie, I'm glad this is making sense. And Taz says, before asking, what do I want to do? Ask, who do I want to be? And let one inspire and inform the other. Yes. Who do I want to be? I love it. And Valencia says, you agree. Doing, our doing from out of who be, for better or worse. Yes. And that is this thing about self-awareness. And so I hope that this has been, not too off the beaten path for us, but this idea of looking at the I am in action. And of course, you know how I love to play on words. I was recently sharing when I was at 1440 with the lovely Karina Virginia, leading this spiritual workshop. If you look in the French language, does anybody who remembers their high school French or middle school French? Do you know how to say, if you were going to say, I am in French, do you know what that is? Anyone? You want me to type it in here for you? Let's see. I'll wait and see if anyone does. Let's see, new text. I'll put some text on the screen for you. So if I were in France, and normally when someone says, who are you? Okay, I see Leslie's typing je, yes. And the rest of it? Do you have more? Do you have more? Do you have more? Let's see, I'll make this yellow. No, sorry, I'm being my typical self. What can I say? Being my typical self, getting into colors. Yes, Billet, thank you. It is je suis. And if you were to look at je suis, what does it look like? What is it? Hey, Shamoni's back. What's up, girlfriend? It's so good to see you. Glad you're here. Loving it. So yes, if we were to say, if we were going to walk up and say, hi, I am your professor today, je suis. And what does je suis look like? Come on, guys. Am I being that vague to you? It looks like Jesus, doesn't it? Je suis comes from Jesuit or Jesus. And not trying to go all off into religion with you, but when we talk about the I am, it's, who are you being? Are you being the ego neurotic crazy person that's like, ooh, I need to get, life is unfair? Or can I, as Valencia was saying, get my very existence and my beingness from the spiritual side of life? The je suis is I am. It translates to I am. So again, looking at, and yes, Roberta, Yahweh. If we look at who we are being, then we're called to look forward to, again, bringing our beingness from the I am in action. So I'm going to spell this out. It's intention. It's attention, motivation, and inspired action. All right. So just to summarize it before we get off of here. All right. Does that make sense? Jesuit, meaning of, Jesuit, Jesus, it looks like. Yes, exactly. That's exactly it. Everyone's got it. And Taz says, it's perfect. You're just back from running your North weekend as part of your 13-month spiritual empowerment program. It's all about clarity, spiritual warrior energy, understanding the self, brain, mind, and heart mind. Yes. Yes, it is perfect to have you here too. Oh, Taz, we need to share this. We need to share this. Anyone out there, type yes if you want to learn more about how to really tap into some of your more superpowers. Taz is one of our experts in the Real Self-Love movement. She's one of the Real Self-Love leaders, and she has become my go-to friend for all things related to hashtag hippie shit, as she would say, or woo-woo stuff, and definitely in shamanism and understanding how we can really tap into the energies around us. And if you didn't see my very first interview, I've interviewed her a couple times, but look at the first interview where she talks about the stuff that she's been seeing since childhood. So Taz, I would love it if you would share more about this in our upcoming masterclass. So yes, everybody's like, yes, yes, you got a lot of yeses. I love it. Because what I have found, I'm loving it, definitely with talking to you, Taz, and yes, tapping into our superpowers, is there have been so many religious groups and secret societies and even just modern day spiritual masters who teach how to utilize all of the spiritual powers that we are all gifted with. And, I teach in my own way based on, my brain apparatus and what I've experienced in my life. And the reason I do my live shows and my work, if you want to know my intention behind what I'm doing, is I really intend to be a force for good on the planet, to eliminate suffering of all beings on this planet. And I know that if I put my attention on things that are working, then I'm going to continue to see more of that. And, this I am in action thing, this is really what has worked for me, like no doubt. And the more that we have these conversations, the more training that we get, the more I realize you guys got some superpowers too, like stuff that you probably aren't even fully tapped into. And so I'm so glad to see everyone is saying yes. Everyone is excited to have Taz, teach us some more stuff. Because I personally, I don't know, I want to be the change that I wish to see in the world. And I want to see more and more of us tapping into our spiritual gifts, and more of us being able to take the high road, as we talked about last time. And that's, that's what I'm into. So has this been helpful to you guys, or have I just gone off the deep end? Yes, Ebony love, the French I am, je suis. And Ebony says enthusiasm, the Greek word enthusiasmos, from enthus, meaning possessed by God. Exactly. And wouldn't it be wonderful if that was the kind of enthusiasm we brought, that real feeling like we are lit up by that divine force, that divine spirit? Well, I hope that this makes sense. Ooh, Belay, watch out. Don't get me started. She says, I am in action. Sounds like a book. I have a secret addiction to publishing books. I think that's why I started a publishing company. I still have so much work to do with these 2 books, but I like that idea. So yes, Elaine in Mexico, I can't wait to see where you're going to end up next. You say, for sure, we don't always notice our superpowers because we get distracted by nonsense. Yes. And that's what I want us to stop getting distracted and sidetracked. Like, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't get sidetracked by nonsense and drama? That's really what this whole thing brought up for me. So yes, Taz says, we all have these tools. We just need to pick them up. I think we need to recognize that we have them. Yes, we need to pick them up. Sometimes I think we need to sharpen them. And that's what I've been longing for, is a way to practice with my superpowers so I'm not so clumsy with them. But again, the reason that today's session really, took me out of my client work. I got to go back to client work before I get Sienna from school. But it was because I saw firsthand how much energy was drained away by this very smart, powerful, beautiful, spiritual, I won't say warrior in the bad sense, but a spiritual warrior. And I saw that the distraction that comes when we feel hurt and when we start to go back into defending our position, wow. Trevor, I don't know if you're still here, but maybe you'll appreciate this one. But one of the things that came into my meditation, as it always happens, I think I personally tap into, I think I have a spiritual posse. And my little spiritual tribe of helpers and guides, there are a couple of them that just love hip hop. Okay, so love it or hate it, I got spiritual hip hop all up in my world. And I had recently told this person, and I think I shared this on a Facebook Live months ago, where the concept was, if you were playing hot potato, the game is predicated upon how fast you can get rid of it. And so as I was thinking about this woman, I was like, oh my gosh, she has been holding this for so long. Okay, now mind you, in her case, it was only like 3 or 4 days, but for her, that was a long time to be drained of that energy and to be in that negative muckety. Ugh. And I was like, you know what? Snoop and Pharrell, they had it right. You got to drop it like it's hot. So the question is, how fast can you drop these things? Whether it's a thought, it's a belief, it's an attachment, it's a grudge. Now, I don't want you to drop it and just pretend like you're forgiving it and forgetting it and squash it down. Do the self-work, the inquiry work on understanding what is the lesson. Because I'm a big believer in karmic lessons. If you don't learn that lesson, it's going to come back around. Life happens to us in cycles. You will have an experience of that same ish if you don't learn that lesson. And so we definitely take the time we need to investigate. And sometimes maybe you do need to sit with something for a while. There's no judgment if it takes you 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months. There's no judgment there. But recognizing that your ultimate goal, if you want to even have a goal, should be to get back to that place of purity where you can just wish that person well and hopefully not take the hurt with you into the future, that sense of pain, burden. Does that make sense? So, yes, Gianna Wood says, when you feel hurt, you start to defend your position. And that's it. And that's what I want people to know, that they need to let that stuff go. Let it go. Taz says, daily practice, self-responsibility. Pick up your tools, learn them, use them. Amen. There we go. Another hashtag from Taz. Hashtag Spirit Posse. I'm loving it. All right. So this is where we are. Yes, it's a daily practice. It's constant growth. And if and when we fall down, says Valencia, get up, learn, reflect, and keep it going. That is right. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it fast. And then we go. You don't ignore. You learn. You let go. And you move on. So I hope this has been helpful to you. I thank you all for tuning in. I see Helena's joined us, one of our Real Self-Love leaders. Don't drop it until it's ready to be dropped. These are all gifts, hot as they may be. Yeah. All right. Well, we can certainly learn and practice together. That's what this tribe is for. If you have enjoyed learning a little bit about the peeps and these spiritual practices, then then stay with us, because that's what we're here for. That is what we are here for. So my dear friend, Helena Goldstein, is the founder of the Joy Keepers Network, and she is one of our Real Self-Love leaders. You will see her leading some master classes within our community. If you would like to join our community, I would love it if you would pop on over either to our Facebook group, where you can join the Real Self-Love movement. That would be fabulous. And you can also download our Real Self-Love Manifesto, which is, in my opinion, a wonderful way to keep your attention on what you really want to stand for in this life. So you can download the Real Self-Love Manifesto, some guided meditations, all that good stuff. Thank you, Roberta, for being here. I know that you've got to go get your child from school. I know it is that time. Thank you so much for being here, everyone, and tuning in. I love it when you're here. I love it. I just love it, because this is part of my spiritual mission, I believe, to connect us all to people who are doing good stuff in the world. And as I mentioned, you can When you go to therealself.love and join the movement, totally free, you will tune into some masterclasses. The lovely Dr. Valencia Ray will also be leading some. You will see my dear friend, Helena Philipson from the DK, baby. We are doing some events in Copenhagen, Denmark, this summer, so I would love for you to join us over there. And as I mentioned, the lovely Taz Thornton will also be leading a masterclass. And you've heard it here, Taz. Everybody wants you to help us recognize some of our spiritual tools, tap into our spirit posse so that we can get better for, doing what we need to do. And Dora says, yep, we need practice. It's like a muscle. We've got to train it. The more we hold it and the bigger burn we get. Yeah. So don't hold on to your stuff too long. Definitely get what you need. I'm glad that this has been helpful to you, Ebony. Glad that you were able to tune in on your lunch break and get a little nourishment. I love it. Love, 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 love it. Love it. And Gianna, maybe we will cover this on another one. You said, what are ways to identify the specific karmic lessons in a situation? We will definitely have to talk this through because I think that is one of the advanced kind of questions of how do we go within and reflect on what's happened to us and how do we learn those lessons? Because I'm a big believer in, okay, I can hold that hot potato and I'm going to learn, okay, what is it about the shape of this? What did I do to attract this? What is my responsibility? I always start there. What is my part? Not from a blame, but just understanding what did I do to initiate or trigger this? Understanding the other person. I think there's so much that we can unpack there. So Gianna, I'm not trying to put you off, but it's been an hour and I'm supposed to keep these under an hour. Yeah, right. But I would love to explore that at another time. But I definitely feel like understanding your part and your role. The other piece I would say is look back over your life and see any other times where a similar situation has come up. Because typically the bad stuff or these bad relationships, these karmic things, they don't just happen once. We typically see them over and over again. And it's unfortunately for some of us, we have to hit rock bottom or feel intense pain before we finally listen. And so sometimes I find that if I go back over my life and I recognize a pattern of when did that happen again in different situations, different circumstances, different relationships, what was the overall lesson? What am I needing to learn? And when all else fails, ask. Ask yourself, your soul, your higher self. Ask God or the divine, show me. Just say, Spirit, show me. Show me, what does this mean? What is my lesson here? And I think the more that we call on our higher self or guides or God, the more we will tune into hearing that voice or those messages. And some of us see things in different ways, whether it's in dreams or we see, signs out in our world. But you can always ask. So my friends, this has been a fun little afternoon session. I apologize again for the crazy time. Thanks, Valencia. I'm glad it was nourishing. Simply because I'm in America now, so my schedule is a little bit wonky as I am trying to deal with clients in multiple time zones on multiple continents. And I'm trying to get it all worked out. So thank you for being here. I am so glad that this has been helpful. Thank you, Gianna. I'm so glad that this made sense. Sorry that it resonates so much, but hopefully that means you're on your path to getting some clarity there. Well, I would love to see you over in the Real Self-Love group here on Facebook. You can also tune into my stuff on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/Pennington Media. And if you'd like to get any of my free ebooks and audiobooks, just visit AndreaPennington.com. I wish you all a wonderful week. I am just super excited to be connected to you and looking forward to more and more of this unfolding in time. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Helena, for being here as well. I wish you all a fabulous week and a fabulous rest of your Monday. Much love.